Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer your Detroit Lions questions. We are back. I want to say back from the holidays, but technically I guess we're still in the midst of holidays. And you're muted, but good try talking.
No, that was purposeful.
Oh, sure it was. You were.
I'm trying to keep myself composed.
That's right. But yes, there's still 1 week of the NFL left, which means we are still running our normal week, and you guys get a midweek mailbag for the first time, and I feel like a little bit. My name, by the way, is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer of Pride of Detroit, and my voice is suddenly all raspy. I feel like I'm out of practice here a little bit. So I'm going to pass it to the co-host of our midweek mailbag. He is the managing editor of Pride of Detroit, and you can find him at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt. Erik, say some stuff to the people.
Hey, some stuff to the people. So, happy holidays, buddy. I know your voice is raspy, but look, people like that. People like that. You should keep it up. Don't drink the water.
Yeah. Just get a little vocal fry. People love vocal fry.
Yeah, well, the raspiness, it plays, and it, that's what podcasts are all about. They're all about that unique voice choice.
That's right. The people, we develop such a interpersonal relationship with our audience. They can tell when it's a little raspy. They're like, oh, I wonder if Jeremy's going through a little cold. If he's gonna maybe I should send him some vitamin C in the PO box. Don't do it. Don't do any of that. I'm fine. Anyways. Weird intro. Let's get to some questions. And if you ever want to send us in questions for these midweek mailbags, you can send them to us via Twitter when we put out a call, usually on Tuesday mornings. If you're a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, you can reply to any email you get from Pride of Detroit Direct and send in your questions. We have a good mixture of both today. A lot about coaching, a lot about the offensive line, and some about the final game of the season and strategies and things of that nature. A lot about fandom, too, which is a kind of an interesting topic I wanted to dive into. But let's indeed start with some coaching staff questions. The first of which comes from Nate Savage on Twitter, asks, does Dan Campbell tend to hire his buddies or promote within too much? Shep and AG are running the same scheme and it didn't work the last 2 years. Same as Johnny Moe. Do you think we need to hire from outside the coaching tree?
Well, I think that was purposeful. Specifically with Johnny Morton, they said as much. They wanted to keep the scheme in place because, one, it was wildly efficient. They were the top scoring offense last year. They're in the top 3 this year. I don't know how far they've declined. Since their last couple of weeks, I'm not sure, but it can't be out of the top 3. And so
they're in scoring, yeah.
And scoring. So, the offense has been designed around Goff. You have Goff under contract for multiple years. This is what works best for him. And so, yeah, surely that was by design. With Shep, Shep came in under Glenn, and they had found a rhythm, with Aaron Glenn's defense as talent started to build. And so again, it kind of made sense to stick with what was working. There were adjustments more on defense than on offense, I'd say. And that, I believe, is the influence of Kelvin Shepherd. But there are some core philosophies, like being man cover heavy, that I believe go back to Dan Campbell beyond Aaron Glenn and Shep. That's a Dan Campbell thing. And so I don't think necessarily bringing in new blood from the outside is a bad thing, but I also don't think it's just going to magically change things either. I have gone on board I have been on record the last couple of weeks really advocating for an offensive coordinator. I think it needs to be something they find. I also believe it's something they should acquire from outside the organization to bring new perspective, yet keep a lot of the same principles on offense that have been working. From a defensive perspective, I think there needs to be an overhaul to the scheme, but I also believe Shepherd has shown the flexibility to be a guy who can do that. And he's played in the league for a dozen years or 10 years, 10, 12 years, whatever it was. And he's seen different schemes. And so I don't think making a change on either side of the ball is a bad thing, but I also don't believe they're in a spot where they need to do like complete overhauls just for the sake of, change.
Right. I think we need to go back to last year and just remember where the franchise was at. Obviously, coming off a 15-2 season, number 1 offense in the league, still a top 10 scoring defense, despite all of the injuries that happened at the end of the season, right? And you look at where the franchise was. They had a steady offensive scheme for 4 years and were mastering it. They had a steady defensive scheme and were improving. And we kept hearing from the coaching staff, like, listen, we're able to do more advanced things because this is, for a lot of these guys on defense, they're in the 4th year of this scheme. For a lot of these guys on offense, they're in the 3rd or 4th year of this scheme. And it made complete sense for the Lions to say, let's not rock the boat there.
Right.
Let's keep, it's not just hiring your friends, it's stability. And what you see with a lot of these franchises, what you see with a lot of, teams that are in the midst of long-term success is stability in your scheme. Like you have this, these offensive-minded gurus, and part of the appeal of having that guy is your offensive scheme doesn't need to change. Like obviously there'll be tweaks and things every year, but there's stability on the most important side of the ball there, and that's why they do it. And that's why the Lions wanted to stick with it. And a lot of times you'll see, the best teams are the ones that keep their coordinators, right? Like that can keep them around as long as possible. And the Lions were lucky to do that with Ben Johnson as long as they were. Maybe it wasn't quite Aaron Glenn's time until it was. But I think you can look back on that era and see why the Lions did what they did. It made a ton of sense. Now, do I think they've gotten to a point now where it's like, okay, these guys are either not capable of calling the plays in the way they want, or they're not teaching the scheme enough, or they're not making it evolve enough as it needs to be year to year? Yeah, maybe, but
well, I want to interject.
Yeah,
I think what you're basically dancing around is the inability to adapt the scheme, right? And we see coaches do that in the NFL and stay successful.
Yep.
And so I'm with you. Like the inability to make the correct changes with the scheme that is working is really what I think. I agree with you. I think is what kind of hamstrung this regime this season.
And I don't I know there's this narrative going around that the Lions just they love their guys, right? They love their players that they draft, they love their coaches that they hired, and that's to a fault. And I don't know if I agree with that narrative necessarily. Just picking an outside guy does not necessarily mean it's a good or bad hire. Anthony Lynn was an outside guy, right? He lasted half a season. I think sometimes you just make the right hire and sometimes you don't. And I think to me it's pretty clear that they're going to run it back with Kelvin Shepherd, and I don't fault them for that. Dan Campbell wouldn't 100% commit it to on the radio, but he said he's doing a damn fine job. And I think the way he views it is what you said, that there has been a little bit more of an adaptability that Shepherd has shown week to week than we saw with Aaron Glenn. Now it hasn't worked out, and I am disappointed with how things turned out at the end of the season, particularly when it came to the run defense and their ability to stop explosive plays. That was a problem that they didn't figure out, right? They may have adapted and tried new things, but they didn't find out a true solution. And it certainly is a bad look when you say, hey, we haven't gotten run over, and then you get run over 3 weeks in a row. But I'm with, we've both kind of said this for the past couple of weeks. I think we're both in the boat of get Kelvin Shepherd some help. Get him an outside voice. To me, it doesn't really have to be an outside voice. Get him a veteran voice. Get him a guy who will give him another bug in his ear. If you're concerned that Dan Campbell was on the offensive side too much and not being able to oversee the defense, and maybe that's why there's a downside, we'll get a veteran guy in there. Get a veteran guy so that Dan Campbell doesn't have to play overseer of everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I'm at. All right, next question. Next question here from Rory, kind of along the same line, says, you guys on the last podcast mentioned it might be time for Lions to expand off coordinator searches beyond who DC has connections with, besides McDaniels, who we don't even know if is going to be fired yet. Who would your top 3 external candidates for offensive coordinator be, and why?
I get the McDaniel hype, but I'm not. We kind of addressed this, I think, on the last mailbag. I don't like the fit.
Yeah.
And I don't think his track record is as sterling as it looks. There's this idea that if you come from this Shanahan McVay tree, that you are the next great thing. And it's, I don't think that's always necessarily the case anymore. That tree is starting to have branches that aren't as sturdy as some of the original ones, right? Um, the one I'm interested in, we've talked about previously,
Kafka.
is the Mike Kafka. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the I think he's young enough, creative enough, that he's a guy that you should probably be paying attention to if he gets, doesn't get retained, I guess, by the Giants. The other one that I want to keep in mind is, and this is a bit of a stretch, and I haven't brought this guy up yet, but if the Bengals move on from Zach Taylor was with Dan Campbell in Miami, and
It's
he's
not external, but yeah.
it's not external, but it's also 10 years ago.
True.
So there's a little bit of a connection, but they have like he was there's a little bit of a connection, but there's also not like he's not ingrained in like that same from the same system. There's been a 10-year separation between the two. Zach Taylor's a pretty smart offensive mind, and I think he would be fantastic in Detroit if the Bengals decide to move on from him, which I don't know. I don't know what the Bengals are going to do. But
I kind of doubt it.
he's
Just with all
another.
the injuries they had, but yeah.
Oh, I know, but like, it's not the first year that they've, had a down season. So I'm keeping an eye on him. The hard part about projecting these OCs is we don't necessarily know who's going to be available.
Right.
So Kafka and Taylor are kind of the I'm watching their situations a little closer than I am some others.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anyone else to necessarily add. You could obviously just try to kind of pick apart some of the better offenses in the league if you want to try to be the next one to find someone from the Rams staff. I'm sure there's someone there like.
Well,
I'm trying to see
Shula, their DC is really good.
Right, but he's a DC. You can't
Right.
promote him.
Well, again,
it has to be
if
like a
you're moving
pass
on
game
from
coordinator
Shepard.
or a run game coordinator.
Or you
okay,
make them assistant coach or whatever, right? Yeah.
right. To go back to Shep, because again, I don't necessarily have many answers. The problem to me with the go out and get an experienced guy, go out and get a guy who's proven. Those guys are either already a defensive coordinator or already a head coach, right? I think everyone is circling Brian Flores. And yes, I would love Brian Flores to be the Lions' next defensive coordinator. And I understand his contract is coming to an end in Minnesota. But there is 0% chance. Okay, 1% chance. I hate absolutes. 1% chance that the Vikings go, meh, no thanks, and let that guy walk out the door to become a defensive coordinator elsewhere. If he might get a head coaching opportunity again. I know there's a feeling that maybe he's blackballed, and maybe that's true, maybe there isn't. But of all the possible outcomes, Minnesota just saying, we're done. We're done having one of the most explosive, like unfigure-outable defenses for the past 10. Like they will, if they have any brains in them, and remember, they're not like a coaching contract is not subject to a salary cap. They'll throw every bit of money as they have to keep him.
Well, will they? I mean, that's what I don't know. Is their ownership prone to do that? And are they willing to go into a bidding war with someone like Jerry Jones, who has been rumored to be circling, the Flores contract type of thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fascinating to watch. I think he stays in Minnesota. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But it is interesting.
The only interesting name to me, and of course, like also not available yet, is Todd Bowles. Because that is a guy that we know Dan Campbell has.
He might win the division still.
He might. But
right.
I don't know. It has not been a good year for Tampa. And
no, it's been terrible. But
Right.
if they're in the playoffs, though, that's a hard fire. It happens though. It happened in Dallas not too long ago, right?
Yeah. What about since you're a little bit closer to the Michigan program than I am, what are your thoughts about Wink as maybe like that defensive assistant?
I mean, I as okay, you call him in as like an advisor.
Yeah, senior
Yeah.
defensive
All right.
assistant.
I
Wink
think
Martindale.
I think that's not out of the realm. The challenge would be Wink is completely different
Right.
from a schematic
More
standpoint.
aggressive, way more
He's
aggressive.
more aggressive, blitzes like crazy, runs more of a like a 2-4 as opposed to Lions. Like he's he it's a very different look. If you're talking about changing the system and stuff, and yeah, Wink is he's got he understands how to dial up the pass rush. That's for certain. But it's a very different scheme.
Yeah. All right. Next question here from Russell D, one of our Pride of Detroit direct subscribers, says, "Do any coaches hired this past year survive the purge that is coming? I can't see where any unit on this team got better." And so let me run down some of the new coaches. There's David Shaw, Tashard Choice, Tyler Roll, who we know is already taking a new job. Obviously Johnny Morton and Casey Rogers. And then there are assistants like Tuyasa Sopo and stuff that I didn't include because we don't even know for sure which position groups they're working with. And and then everyone else was either like moved to a different position, got a promotion, or stuck around from the year before. So I don't know, out of that group, who do you think sticks around and who do you think doesn't?
I think Choice sticks around.
Yeah.
They like him quite a bit. His ability to connect with the players, and you did see some development in Gibbs. The run game as a whole obviously struggled a bit, but I think most of us can attribute that to struggles on the offensive line as opposed to the backs themselves. Like you said, Roll was the guy I would have picked to stick around, except he got a promotion to go back to Iowa State.
Yep.
And then, there's a long history. Again, they have history with Casey Rogers. They like what he does. He's been a guy that they've really, I think he's been a guy that has done well in his time in the NFL. At the same time, the Bucks let him go, and so could the Lions then let him go? It's certainly possible. I'm kind of 50-50 on him.
Yeah.
With Shaw, I could see them trying to shift Shaw into a different role, and I think they could shift Morton into a different role. But at the same time, I could also see both them move on from both those guys as well. So again, I'm kind of 50-50. Shaw's in a passing game role, but in all honesty, in my mind, he'd be better as like a head coach assistant type of thing. Like he'd be better like in the Muehlbach role, where he's like reviewing plays and like reminding Campbell of game situations and stuff like that. Like he has that in his on his resume, whereas Morton is his focus has always been on the passing game. He was a passing game coordinator in Denver. And they love the research that he's able to do in preparation. So I wouldn't be surprised if he stuck around as the passing game coordinator and took over David Shaw's role. So at the same time, again, you may just say, let's cut ties and move on. So I'm very 50-50 on those three, but yeah. I'm almost certain they're not going to move on from Choice.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Rodgers to me is a fascinating one because obviously the defensive line didn't quite live up to expectation, but it wasn't terrible either. Like,
how much would you do with Muhammad?
Right, Muhammad had a great year.
Aiden set career numbers.
Aiden was mostly good. Maybe had a moment where he stepped back. Roy Lopez had a pretty darn good year, but Aleem didn't. Yeah. And
run defense was tough and fell apart near the end. So I'm with you.
And how much were they held back by scheme, right? In terms of their pass rush. And then moreover than that, he's their fourth defensive line coach in the past 4 years. Do we really want to make it 5-5? I know that's
Again,
not a
it's all
reason
about
to keep his
all
job
about scheme,
necessarily.
right?
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I'm kind of sick of doing it personally. I'd like to see some sort of stability there, and you can't just keep someone because you want to keep a position stable. Like they have to. I understand they have to earn the job, but
Yeah.
I think that's something that goes overlooked a little bit is just how much overturn there's been at that specific position, and that can't be good for the players, right?
No.
I mean, you could positively spin it like, well, listen, they're getting perspectives from all different kinds of coaches. They've got all these guys. But no, I mean, I think everyone would agree that some sort of year-to-year consistent reliability would be helpful for that room. So maybe I'm leaning more towards keep than move on from Rodgers, but I think it's also fair to be a little bit disappointed with how that unit turned out this year. I don't think I have much else to say. Like I'm a little surprised Shaw hasn't already gone back to the college because for some reason I feel like David Shaw is a college dude. I feel like he's best suited for there. I think he's a really good role model. I think he's a really good motivator, and I feel like he thrived in that at Stanford. So I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't gone back.
Sure. He
All
may
right.
he may take on some college, different role. I do, with changes with Morton certainly coming, I think that certainly will directly impact Shaw as well.
Yeah. All right, let's move to some offensive line questions here. We got two. Let's start with Honolulu Past Blue. Yes, everyone has been so concerned with inside O-line play, but then counts 2/3 of it as fine for next year. Most have just a new center projected, but haven't they all played bad?
Well, it's not that they haven't. The tough part is that they're all young. Well,
Yeah.
the both guards are young,
Yep.
right? So you've seen flashes from them. Where they are struggling is their consistency, right? You've had games where Mahogany has been dominant, games where Ratledge has been dominant, but games when both of them have faltered in the same game.
Yep.
And it's looked really, really bad in those situations. So if you add a center, or let's say you move Ratledge to center, and you get some consistency out of those younger guys, it does solve the problem. And so you're, I guess, hoping or projecting that those guys, through experience, through consistency, and can develop into more solidified positions. You are going to have to replace one of those interior spots. It seems like the decisions have been made towards Glasgow, even if it's not, it's going to be hard for him to return. I'm worried about Decker, feeling the aches and pains of a season-long injury. And so if you have to fill a spot in the interior, and then maybe you have to fill a spot at tackle, things get real complicated in a hurry. And so you're hoping and you're putting a lot of faith in those two young guards that they can, find that consistency, because Mahogany's going into year 3 and there's a very notable sophomore jump that happens. And for all intents and purposes, Mahogany's basically, this was like his rookie year too, right? Because he missed all but like 3 games. So you're hoping to see that natural progression. And I think that's why people have said, all right, it should be okay moving forward, as long as you get that one missing piece that can be consistent.
The tricky part for me is when you're talking about replacing either your center, guard, left tackle, or all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to, like, at least one or two of those is going to have to be a rookie, right? You're going to have to draft one. I don't know if this team has enough money, offseason resources to trade or acquire a free agent. And so if you're doing that, you're talking about starting 3 or 4 guys on that offensive line in their first, second, or third year. And while like that becomes partially necessary because of the salary cap involved, that's a really young and inexperienced group.
Yep.
That's tough. That's a tough ask for what this team did in the running scheme last year, with all of like the bells and whistles and inside zone, outside zone, gap, duo, like to be able to be as versatile as they were required experience. It required veterans. It required guys who had been doing it for a decade. I don't see how they get back to that in one off season.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. I guess in an ideal world, you're probably looking for a veteran interior player, whether it's center or guard, and then depending on what happens with Decker, if Decker decides to retire, then you're probably drafting an offensive tackle with one of your first two picks. If Decker decides to continue to play and he's, who knows when he's going to retire, maybe you're not feeling this pressed to take a tackle in the first round and you can take when you feel more comfortable taking one, but in the second, but you have to go into this draft, this offseason with knowing that you're going to have to replace those two guys in some way. Even if they don't retire, even if they both come back, you still have to have more capable backups than or more or to execute a long-term plan for those positions with because Graham's 33 or 32 and Decker's right a year behind him, whichever I forget exactly when that change happens there, but then there needs to be a better contingency plan than Giovanni Manu and the plethora of interior backups. Right. And I know Frazier's good. I like Frazier's upside, but I'm not plugging him into a starting guard role with the limited amount of opportunities I've seen. I like his upside, right?
Yep.
And in an ideal world, he develops into a starter. And so maybe that you bring a veteran in and he creates competition, and that's even better. But I'm with you. I think they're probably going to try and target acquiring someone in the draft. And if you look at where this draft talent is, it's more offensive tackles and even some offensive tackles that may be better guards. But the interior offensive line in this draft class looks woefully thin. So that's going to impact free agency too. So for like people saying, let's just go throw the Brinks truck at Linderbaum. Well, that price is going to go up if the draft class is not as good, right? And depending on what the market looks like and who else is available, like I don't know if you can do that. So, you might be looking for the next Kevin Zeitler.
There was always going to be a youth movement on the offensive line that was inevitable, right? Because you had Frank, because you have Decker and Zeitler and all that. And I think the Lions were preparing for that inevitability. I think the drafting, and like you could even throw the drafting of Giovanni Manu into that. Like maybe they hoped by year 3 next year, he might challenge for that left tackle spot. You go out getting Tate Ratledge, who might be your center of the future. It's just everything got expedited when Frank retired, and you were left without much of anything in terms of depth. You were left without much of anything in terms of experience on that interior offensive line, except for Graham Glasgow, who you probably went into OTAs thinking Graham Glasgow might not be in the starting lineup. Like him and Ratledge were going to battle for the right guard spot. That was your depth, and Glasgow got to a point where like he was so important to the team that he couldn't get injured. And then when he did get injured, we saw what happened the last couple of weeks, right? Like, I still think we need to, before we go pointing that Brad screwed this whole thing up on the offensive line, we still need to know his timeline of events in terms of what he knew about Frank Ragnow. But the problem is, I don't know if everything can get fixed in one offseason. I don't know if they can get a stopgap guard center that can play for a year or two like they did with Kevin Zeitler. That would certainly be helpful. But the youth movement had to happen one way or another. It's just unfortunate that it had to happen last year when, I think the rest of the roster was in a better spot than it might be this upcoming year. Like it might be that they're going to lose some defensive players this offseason. They're going to, I don't know. Decker, whether he sticks around or not, like is probably going to be a downgrade from what we had this year out of Decker. And so everything becomes a little bit harder, and the offensive line issues are still I just don't know if they can fix everything in one offseason.
Yeah, I think Mahomes has certainly been trying to address the issue from afar, while also using higher draft picks on higher priorities or higher positions of need. You've seen him draft an offensive lineman almost every single draft, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he's brought those guys in hoping that he could develop that those guys could be developed, and some of them have, and some of them have not.
Right.
And that's just part of the dice roll with day three draft picks.
Yep.
Is sometimes those day three draft picks pan out and you find a diamond in the rough, but more often than not, most day three draft picks in the NFL, they play out their rookie contract and that's it. It's not often, it's more becoming more and more common for those guys to just not make it through year three or take a path of challenging early in their career when they're given opportunities, and then just plateauing and not being able to progress further. So you're hoping a guy like Frazier can be another one of those guys that can push for work, but you don't know. You were hoping Manu could be, but it certainly doesn't look like he's quite there. You saw them when they got Kingsley, they brought in 3 UDFA centers trying to find somebody that they could develop, and that process has taken longer than expected. So it's not like he's been inattentive to the offensive line. He just hasn't sunk in top 100 draft picks on the offensive line, and that's what people want. Right. But I guarantee it, if he was drafting top 100 offensive linemen in the past 2 years, people would be screaming about how those are wasted picks because the offensive line is stable, right? So it's a hard balance.
You're not getting an edge. You're not getting a corner. You're not getting this, right?
Right. So it's a hard balance. And I think I understand his approach. I also understand the frustration when the offensive line is such a priority for this offensive success. So you got to go in, keeping thinking you got to get 2 spots into this offseason, in my opinion.
Zach L has a rosier outlook on the offensive line, perhaps a little bit wishful. Says, I had a question about a potential reunion on the offensive line. Do you see a potential reunion where Frank comes back, plays one more year with Taylor Decker, who has discussed a near future retirement, and Glasgow expressed that he wanted to come back in Detroit a few years back and play with his friends Decker and Ragnow? I would feel a whole lot better and more comfortable with Decker, Glasgow, Ragnow, Ratledge, Sewell offensive line. This would also give guys like Frazier, Mahogany, future center or left tackle draft picks this year to learn under seasoned vets. Curious to your thoughts.
I do think if Frank comes back, it would only happen if Decker's here. Mm-hmm. I believe they're tied together. Graham is certainly part of that trio, but at the same time, I don't know if he's a catalyst in this in the future, right? I think Graham has been terrific. He's given a lot to the Lions over his career, both during his rookie contract and as a vet, and he has been asked the 3 years he's been here, or the most recent years that he's been here, to do more than he should. And so I don't want this to sound like I'm saying anything negative about Graham, because I think Graham has been sensational. I also think Graham is probably the 5th best starter on their offensive line right now. And I don't know if he would even contend to start if he returns next year. And then when you add in the fact that he's making 8.4 million and there's no guarantee he starts, and they're only like 3 million of that is guaranteed, I wonder if what looks like it could be a cash-strapped front office looks at Graham's contract and says it might just be time. And it's unfortunate, but this is a decision that we've talked about
Yep.
with all of these veterans. Nobody wants Alex Anzalone to leave, but he wants more money than the Lions probably have to give out. Nobody wants Amik Robertson to leave. No, there's these guys, DJ Reader, Glasgow. They're all going to be in spots where they could be either cap casualties or not re-signs because of the current cap situation of having to pay your younger guys. And so I'm not sure. I'm not counting Glasgow in this team's future. So yeah, if Frank comes back, great. You're going to have Decker. But like you said, is Decker going to be the same guy he even was this year? Another year worth of an injured shoulder on his of wear and tear. That's hard. That's hard on him. And again, same thing with Decker. He's given a decade to this team. Like he's been terrific. But he's already talking about retirement, as Zach points out. And so I don't know. I get the idea, and I think having Glasgow or having Frank and Decker would certainly give them a year of comfort to develop. But I don't know. I don't know if that will happen.
To me, like, that's what this year was supposed to be. That's like,
Yeah.
ideally, in the ideal situation. Now, Glasgow at left guard in this situation, I think, is not a good idea. Glasgow didn't like playing at left guard. He wasn't particularly good at left guard last year. I think you still, like, I still think the plan of having Decker, Mahogany, Ragnow, Ratledge, Sewell, and Ratledge is like Ratledge or Glasgow, was like a great situation to be in, because yes, you could take some of your younger players like Miles Frazier, like Giovanni Manu, and just develop them. Don't have to throw them into the fire. And same with Ratledge. If he doesn't win the job at right guard over Graham Glasgow, boom, spend a year behind the scenes, playing some right guard in practice, playing some center in practice, getting all that developed. Like, in an ideal world, that's exactly how this year would have played out. And maybe that's exactly what Brad Holmes wanted to do. Maybe that's what the entire plan was all along. And then Frank throws, a wrench into the plans in May and suddenly retires. And suddenly it looks like Holmes got caught with his pants down. I'm kind of hoping that's what happened because otherwise,
I believe you.
But again, like, we won't know until we hear from Brad next week.
So what it sounds like you're telling me is that the catalyst for this entire season is blamed on Frank.
Yep. That's the easy. Like, hey, Lions did nothing wrong. It was just Frank. Boom.
Yeah. No, what I think we need to also keep in mind here is that offensive linemen don't stay healthy. And so you have to have.
Lions got lucky last year. People don't want to talk about how they got lucky on the offensive side of the injuries last year, but they did.
But on the offensive line, Glasgow missed 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
Mahogany was on IR for 6 weeks. Like, you need depth. Like, we need, when we start looking at this offensive line, we need to start looking at it from this is an 8-man. Who are the 8? Right? So, like, even if I've been talking about this for years, OT3 is a wildly underrated spot because you are one illness away from Dan Skipper starting. You know what I mean? That's why even if Decker comes back, I want an offensive tackle with the first 2 picks.
Right. I mean, you've been screaming for an OT3 for years now. Yes.
So even if these veterans come back, this is still a team that needs to go in thinking about acquiring 2 more starter level type players.
All right, let's take a break there. When we come back, we're going to talk a lot more, answer more of your Detroit Lions, get a little bit into this week talk about what fan expectations should be and moving of goalposts. We'll talk about that and more when we come back here on the Midweek Mailbag. We'll be right back. Okay, let's take a break, do some alerts, answer some of your guys' questions. Jamarco Jones is who you're talking about, LJ, and yeah, they were a little bit higher on Jamarco than maybe
I don't know why.
Even Dan Skipper.
Yeah, they were, and I'm not 100% sure on why because he was injured every other day in training camp,
Right,
and then ended up on IR. So like, I get it, but
they
I
love
don't
those
get it.
injured players, dude.
Well, who doesn't, right? Who wants to pay for a guy when when you can pay for a guy and his injury replacement, right?
Sorry, I'm curious as to what some things in the news are referring to, but let me not get distracted too much here and thank some people like Ice Cecil for the 50 months subscribed on Twitch. Appreciate you, buddy. Thomas J. Hutchins, 34 months, says still here. Good times and bad and sad. Yeah. Luxables, 34 months.
You looking at the Stefan Diggs news?
That's exactly what I'm looking at because I don't know what
Holy
that's in reference
cow.
to.
That's not good. Either way, it's not good. No matter what it's in reference to.
Luxtables, 34 months subscribed to us on Twitch, says still better than any of the Patricia years. Different kind of disappointment, though. Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, he's available. Like, I bet you could get him from the college ranks. We didn't talk about him.
Who?
Matt Patricia. Didn't he just know what you just said? He did great things at.
Sorry, you got muted. Sulfur Break, 22 months subscribed to the channel. Le Mans Builder, 32 months, says 3 moves to make the team better. Is that a request? And Matt Sick, thank you for the 33 months subscribed to us on Twitch. All right, you're out of timeout. Yeah, I'm not expecting Frank to be back. Some people pointing out that a grade 3 tear probably requires surgery. I'm not counting it out completely, but I'm certainly not expecting it.
I'm anticipating worst case scenario on the offensive line. No Frank, Decker, and Glasgow both retire, and you are drafting an offensive tackle in the first round and searching for an interior offensive lineman in free agency, and it's probably not going to be Linderbaum. I know everyone wants that. I would enjoy that as well. I think he's fantastic, but that's just too pie in the sky for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't see that happening. It'd be great, but I just can't bring myself, knowing what I know about this regime, to think that that's a realistic possibility.
What's interesting, and I know you've always pushed back on Brad saying that he's a don't draft for need guy. But I do feel like that's going to be like pushed to the extreme limit this year.
Sure. Look, I always point out that Brad says, I don't have a depth chart in front of me, so I don't look at where our. I have a depth chart in front of me. I don't use it though. You know why? Because I know the team.
I see it.
Just like
you have a depth chart behind you, not in front of you.
No, I got one in front of me too. But he doesn't need one. Like I always find that one funny. I don't have a depth chart in front of me. Well, you shouldn't. You should know your roster well enough that you don't need a depth chart.
Who's my starting left tackle again?
Yeah. What's his contract? I'm looking at this draft class more and more over the last 2 weeks. And I don't know if there's a center that I draft with the first 2 draft picks that they're going to have. There's probably a guard, maybe 2, that might be there. But there's maybe 6 6 offensive tackles that I think could be considered in that range, right?
Is it too late
Maybe
to draft Gray Zabel?
um, it's a weird draft class for offensive line, but I do think you could get a guy and maybe play him on that right side and shift Panay, or maybe play him on the left side and keep Panay at right and make it work. But if you're gonna count on a rookie to start at tackle, you gotta probably take him with that first pick.
Yeah.
You do.
I will say I'm a little bit more optimistic on Decker sticking around another year.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not. I don't know.
I know why you're not, right? He's said the words. He said the words that he's considering retirement. Like, it's coming soon.
He can't even practice, right? Like,
It has a lot of the makings of a Frank Ragnow situation, except he's been more open. Part of the reason why, to me, I'm currently giving Brad Holmes the benefit of the doubt with Ragnow is like he was adamant in 2023 after 2023.
mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not thinking about retiring. Some of what I said was taken out of context.
Yeah,
I'm not thinking about
I was
retiring.
standing next to him when he said that, man. He was not happy.
Right.
And the other offensive linemen around him weren't happy that conversation was needing to be had as well.
Right. And then he goes and retires a year later. That's surprising.
Right.
Decker is openly admitting he's had conversations about it. He's thought about it. He's thought about being a dad the rest of his life and things like that are important. So you have to start preparing. Now, I do cede a little bit of my own personal beliefs and opinion on this to Justin Rogers, who I know talks to Decker a lot more than any other reporter. He has a really good rapport with him, and Justin is currently leaning that he's staying another year. And so I'm kind of just like, okay, I trust you. You know him better than I do. But things obviously can change. Opinions can change. The more time you stay away from the game of football during the offseason can make it change. The way this season ended, I don't know what direction that works in. Does Decker look at this season and say, I don't want to go out like that? Or does he look at the season and say, this team might not be as close to winning a Super Bowl as I think. I don't know if I want to stick around in another year or two. Or does, like you say, the constant shoulder injury battle every single week, is that enough to be like, I want to be able to lift my kids up when I retire from the game?
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Dan's asked, can we even afford to have Decker back next year? It's going to cost a lot.
Yeah.
And is his play going to match whatever the 20-some million? Is it 20 million? I feel like it's around 20 million. Yeah.
21.
Cap hit? I mean, I think it's very unlikely he plays to that level, but can he play to an average or above average level and you just have an overpay there while not having to start a rookie left tackle? That might be worth it. It's tough.
It is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not typically pessimistic, but
I know this is
I'm kind of pessimistic about his situation. The tea leaves don't read well to me. So I gotta hope Justin's correct.
Yeah. DC Smithers over on YouTube, £5 super chat says, everyone talks about Shep with an outside assistant. Why not the offensive side? Promote Scotty with an assistant.
I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of what Dan is, right? Like Dan is kind of that offensive.
Yeah.
Like the reason you would bring a defensive minded, veteran coach as like an assistant is because Dan is so offensive minded. And so I think Dan wants, he talked about wanting to be more involved. And so I kind of think Dan wants to be in that role essentially. So I don't know. It's just my speculation.
Yeah.
And I also think if they wanted Scotty, they probably would have promoted him last year, which is, I don't know. Could you do that again? Could you promote from within? Or if they wanted Scotty, why didn't they just pass the play calling duties over to him? Or, I mean, maybe that would have been too much and too hard, but
Yeah, you
I
probably
don't
don't.
know.
Making a play calling switch to someone other than the head coach in the middle of the
Yeah, it
season
would have been
seems
hard. It
messy.
would have been hard. Yeah.
Has Scotty called plays before? I think he has, right?
Well, he was. I mean, I think he was an OC somewhere down the line. God, I gotta. He was a head coach at one point, but I don't know if he was play caller then. I assume you're looking it up, so I'm not going to.
He was offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Maryland. I don't know if he was calling plays there. I'd imagine maybe. I don't know. Either way, I mean it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it
But
wouldn't make people happy
no,
because
but
I think people are.
well, people want external hires, and I understand that, and we've advocated that a little bit here as well. But I think we also have to acknowledge that both come with risks. There's not a right answer to external versus
Sure.
internal, right? We've talked a lot about the Eagles, right? The Eagles Super Bowl team losing the Super Bowl in 2022, have to hire two new coordinators in 2023 because they lose Gannon and who's the offensive
Yeah.
mind? The Colts guy.
And yeah, Strickland or Steichen,
Steichen.
right? Steichen.
2023 it all blows up and they get rid of both. They clean house, right? And that's what I think people are looking to that and saying, "Hey, clean house. Go get yourself a new offensive and defensive coordinator and you can bounce back as quickly as the Eagles." Now, in theory, sure, great. I think you have to look. The situation is a little more nuanced than that, and it starts with their defensive coordinator, who's Fangio.
Yeah,
So Fangio,
falling into that.
let's talk about the Fangio situation, because he was already on the Eagles staff in 2022. He was going to be their defensive coordinator in 2023. But Gannon threw them for a loop and said, "You know what? I'm not going to take a head coaching job. I'll stick around for another year." At which point, Fangio goes, "Okay, I'm going to take the Dolphins' defensive coordinator job." And then Gannon leaves a couple weeks later, and they're like, "Huh? What? Huh?" And then whoever they end up hiring, they fire after a year, and then Fangio's like, "Oh, I can come back now? Dolphins let me go." And the Dolphins are like, "All right, fine." And so like that wasn't that was them, like they had set themselves up for a succession plan. They did what they did with Aaron, as the Lions did with Aaron Glenn and Kelvin Shepard. Now obviously Fangio, a much more experienced guy than Shep, but that wasn't like a true external hire. That wasn't a true like, I don't know. It was a little bit of a falling into the lap situation. Not that they got lucky, but that they got unlucky in 2023. And I just like I don't think there's a Fangio out there. I just don't.
Todd Bowles.
It's as close as you're gonna get, I think.
Right.
And who knows if he's actually going to be available.
Right. If they win and they're in the playoffs, hosting a playoff game, it'd be rare. Like I said, Dallas is the only team I can think of in recent history that have been like, yeah, nah. But that writing was kind of on the wall too with McCarthy.
I mentioned Gannon, and that could be an interesting option too, honestly.
Is he going to get fired in Arizona, you think?
I don't see why they would keep him. It's been 3 years? Yeah. He's 15 and 35.
Yeah.
But it began like I'm talking more like 2 years as the Eagles defensive coordinator. is not enough for me to be like, okay, you need to be our new defensive coordinator. Get him as an assistant. Yeah,
wouldn't hurt.
Listen, if the Lions somehow went out and got Brian Flores, I'd be doing backflips. But I'm going to stay here in reality, and if the Minnesota Vikings allowed him to sign
Flores, Linderbaum, let's get them all. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Trade for Max Crosby. We just fixed three moves. We just fixed the Lions.
Done. There's your 3 moves. Fix the Lions in 3 moves. There you go. I mean,
throw all the money at Brian Flores.
Yeah. And then all the money at Linderbaum, and then all the money at Max, and
yeah,
you don't re-sign anybody. Everybody else. Trade everyone away.
Jameer,
trade Decker for a first-round pick.
I'm gonna slide right back to running backs don't matter. So let Gibbs walk after 4 years. Go just go draft another one, preferably in the 3rd round or later.
Yeah, you'll find one. I don't know with the NFL and Flores. Like, there's no reason he shouldn't already be a head coach if he wasn't kind of blacklisted. Like, did he even get interviews last year? Like, I don't even remember.
I don't remember. It's insane. Yeah.
It's really, but we've seen it. Yeah.
Is restructuring Goff's contract a must? Yes.
Pretty close.
Yep, it's happening. And if you had any doubt that it may or may not happen, go watch Dan Campbell talk about Jared Goff on the radio this morning.
Mm-hmm. Go watch on the radio.
Enter the 21st century. Would you please? They broadcast it on TV, and you know what? Not TV, over the internet. Here.
You don't need to prove it.
No, I want to play it.
I saw
if I can find it.
Can we watch it?
Yeah, maybe.
No, you're gonna get penalized or something. He gushed over him. That's the moral of the story, right?
I can't find it. Screw it.
Goff's contract is wildly high, and you also have a bunch of other contracts that are hitting pretty high as well. So
this will cover our ass. This is from 97 Won the Tickets, Costa and Jansen morning show. Interview with Dan Campbell this morning. What I find funny about this, and not me being on the screen, is Jim Costa is trying to ask him a question about Jared Goff, and he doesn't even get like 5 words into the question before Dan's like, I'm going into full Jared Goff protection mode here. Here we go.
We're going to get a ton of calls, and already have, about Jared Goff and how he played on Christmas Day. Just if you could share how you feel about him long term and how
Jared
you got.
Goff is a stud.
Yeah.
He's an absolute stud. We're fortunate to have him as a quarterback. He's a winning quarterback in this league. He played at a very high level all season long. He played even better than he played the year before, and he's continued to play better. We're thankful to have him. I'm thankful to have him. He's an absolute stud. He's a pro. He's going nowhere.
There you go. I don't think he could have said it more clear. He's an absolute stud. He's going nowhere. Exclamation point, period. Exclamation point. Question mark, period. Exclamation point. June cut. Yeah. So yeah, anyone who's making up their Malik Willis Detroit Lions jerseys, or I don't know. I've seen all sorts of crazy stuff. I've already seen Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson.
He has almost almost $100 million left on his contract guaranteed. $100 million. Like,
you'd be paying 2 years of Jared Goff's contract for the
him
next 2
not
years
to be
for
here.
him not to be here.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's not happening. I hope that one gets nipped in the bud early enough where we're not talking about it all off season.
Just look at the salary cap, and that ends the conversation. $100 million is not a cuttable contract.
Right.
It just isn't.
I
It is
also
twice
heard-
as much money. Hold on. It costs you twice as much money to cut Jared Goff than it does to cut Aiden Hutchinson.
I've also
as
heard
much.
a suggestion to go the Packers route and draft his replacement this year or next year.
This year or
now
look at his contract.
I-
You're not gonna renegotiate him and then go that route though, right? Like,
Right. There's that, and there's the fact that if you want this team to compete on Jared Goff and you spend a first or second round pick, one of your top 100 picks on a quarterback that you plan to play in 4 years, you have now taken yet another bullet out of the chamber in fixing the offensive line, fixing the defense, surviving whatever happens in the future of safety, getting more tight end depth, getting a replacement for Alex Anzalone, finding a pass rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Like, this team has too many needs right now to go into I just listen. I understand people are frustrated with Jared Goff and don't like that he's not mobile and don't like that he has like one really stinker of a game every year. But he's still producing a top 10 efficiency offense 4 years in a row now.
He's wildly efficient. He's one of the last of his kind. The non-mobile quarterback. They're falling off the cliff in the NFL nowadays. But if you have a quarterback who is as accurate as he is, that's a weapon. If you know how to harness it, and this offense, they know how to harness it. And
Yeah.
look, I don't get. He wasn't really the problem this year. He really wasn't.
No,
if you're listing problems, he's not amongst the top 50. Like, he wasn't the problem this year, despite what Rams writers say.
The irony of that Rams take is, I think Jared Goff had his most Matthew Stafford season of all time. Matthew Stafford in Detroit, where didn't have a run game, didn't have a defense, still dragged this team to relevancy. Like, that's it. Like, that was Matthew Stafford's entire career in Detroit. It's like they hung with him. They played some meaningful December games, but he didn't have any help from a running game. He had 1 year of a good defense.
Side note, I was watching that Bears game on Sunday night, and I watched the first half. How many times did they mention the Lions unprompted? Just like, oh, Lions will do that. Lions, I was like, stop talking about the Lions.
I think
Just keep their name out your mouth, Mike Tirico.
listen, he's
They
a
just
local
kept
guy.
bringing him up.
He's a local
I
guy.
know. Oh my gosh!
Ben
Though, I was like,
Johnson,
you
like-
please.
And you're probably
like,
a little
please.
sensitive to it right now. Like, just can we not talk about the Detroit Lions?
I was getting so irritated. Like, I was complaining to Laura that when they would, I was not even wanting to watch the game. Like, I was watching the game, but I didn't want to, so I was like also like trying to play on my phone. And then like every
wait.
time
Hold on.
I would still hear the name come up, and I would just like look. Go
Wait,
ahead.
how much have people gotten into Blaine's mentions after yesterday? By the way, dude,
Oh, I don't know.
do we owe? Can we take back our apology to Sean McVay because Matthew Stafford threw 3 interceptions and lost to a team that isn't making the playoffs last night? Can we do that now?
Sure. Like, all 64 people watching, just go ahead and do that.
All right, we got some good questions here in the chat. I don't want to stray too far from them. Blitzen Line says, crazy how Goff never gets injured. Let me just shut up. But there is like a little specific skill to that, I would say. Like, it's not.
Yeah, considering he was like hit the second most in the league, right?
But it's also like people don't want to continue to talk about it, but it's also kind of the downside of having a mobile quarterback is you're more prone to injury, right? Like that's an undeniable fact.
Lamar, Love, Dart, like
Mahomes this year.
Mahomes, the list just goes on.
Burrow
with all these guys that can run. Hey, yeah. Even Burrow, you can say, is more modern, right?
Yeah.
A modern quarterback with some mobility. Yeah, it's a weird thing and then look at the statues back there. Stafford, Rodgers, Goff, like those guys got through the season without an issue, right? So
yeah, Stafford. I don't know if we can quite include Stafford since
he made it.
But.
Yeah, but he was coming into the season with injuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to count our blessing. He was a China doll. Matthew Stafford's a China doll. That's right.
That's what I heard.
All right. I'm gonna hold the super chats here for a second and want to make sure some of the other questions don't scroll out before I get there. We'll get to them, I promise. Where? Do you think the Lions will re-sign both or either Levi or Pascal?
Scheme is very important. Cost is going to be the biggest driving factor.
Because both are going to be bargained in.
Yeah, if they run the scheme back, both could come back on very cheap contracts. At the same time, the injury bug has just been so bad with them. I could also see them saying, well, thanks for the memories.
Thanks for the memories. Yeah, if I had to pick one,
it's hard because you don't know the status of either of them, right? Neither of them played this season, right? Yeah. So we don't know. Like Pascal's is a back, yeah, but he still wasn't there.
Yeah,
and then Levi apparently did not have an ACL in his knee, and so like that's like, who knows what they can do surgically with that, right? And so you don't know. It's one thing to have an ACL. It's one thing to have have a knee reconstructed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I like Levi as a player much more, and so I kind of want to give him a chance.
He would have changed that entire defensive line look.
Yeah.
If you're playing him at like that 4-eye, you're not then relying on Tyler Lacey for that role. You're not putting Aleem in that role. Certainly would have changed something. The issue is he played with a busted knee for a long time without people knowing about it.
Right.
And he still managed to be productive. So now you've repaired the knee. Is he still going to be the same player? Well, he could be because he played with it being bad before, but now it's like, I don't know. It's
right. And look,
we don't know.
I also I'm not completely past the back injury for him either.
Well, I think those were tied. I think those were tied together.
Right. But I'm saying like
injury
could the back injury flare up at any time? Like I kind of think so. Right? Like back injury.
I mean, that's what Pascal's dealing with currently.
Right.
Is a back injury. Right. So like again, same boat.
So like I think Levi remains the bigger injury risk, but
also the better
player,
more productive player.
Right. Right. And so it's would you rather take the lower floor, less injury concern guy?
It's like I could see both of them just medically retire as well and be like, oh,
yeah.
It's so because again, we don't know. We really just don't know with them.
Yeah. Mixmaster on YouTube says, just watch Aiden Hutchinson's locker room interview, facial expressions, body language, tone, responses. He's the leader of the D and obviously kept deferring to coaches. Shep has lost the locker room. I'm going to be honest.
Wait.
I first of all, I don't know which interview this is in reference to, but that is every Aiden Hutchinson interview to me, is where he's just like, he does everything he can not to rock the boat, and doesn't talk strategy, doesn't.
I'm going to be honest. It's getting to a point with Aiden that I don't even join the scrums anymore.
Right, and this isn't
I'm
a
not
knock on the
getting
person
as
or
much-
the player or anything, but like,
Nope, that's his style. That's the way he wants to do it. And there's he's not the only one. There's
Yeah.
several guys that take this approach.
there's been a lot of, and I'm not trying to hate on any Lions fans or anything, but like, there's been a lot of like body language experts, it feels like, toning in like, oh, Dan looks defeated up there. I think he's lost the team. Dan isn't doing this. Dan isn't doing that. And I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, I think he's just sad. Like he can be sad because the season isn't going well. We're dropping frames. Can you hear me? Am I delayed?
It's sporadic, but I'm still getting the gist of what you're saying.
Okay. I think we're okay.
We got to power through it.
Okay. I think it was just a quick little boop, and we're okay. Where is John Fox? Where is senior defensive analyst? So many questions on the John Fox isn't here anymore, right? Right?
No, he hasn't been here for a couple of years.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't even know where John Fox is right now, to be honest.
I was gonna
It's
look
been a
up.
while.
Nowhere.
He
2023
yeah,
was his
he
last
hasn't-
year as a
he-
Lions defensive
after,
assistant.
and that was his last NFL interaction.
Okay, we're back. Cool. I feel like there was one more. Let's just get to some of the alerts here and questions that came with those. Joe P, thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, Eric, as an outside analyst, you said before Thanksgiving that Jordan Love shreds man coverage, yet Shep leaned heavy man anyways, even after the Bucs game. Just one example of larger issues we can expect.
Yeah, I think that's inexperience on Shep's part.
You don't have experience, and you figured that one out.
Well, I'm also not calling plays, so like, the two games I have the biggest issue with Shep's play calling was Kansas City and Green Bay. The approaches he took against Mahomes and Love were the opposite of the direction I would have gone. The Tampa game, I still maintain that was the best I've ever seen. I've seen him coach. It leaves me with confidence that that's there with Shep. You know what I mean?
Baltimore too, right?
And
like
so
I know Baltimore scored a lot in that game.
Yeah,
Baltimore
yeah.
felt like a game where the game
But-
plan was excellent.
Yes. That was when the contain really showed up. Like you had never seen that level of contain
Yeah.
before. And then that was repeated. You know, we saw that with a lot of other mobile quarterbacks as well. So there's enough flashes of brilliance with Shep that I remain encouraged. At the same time, I certainly would love if there were some situations where it wasn't like, hey, we're man coverage, we're just going to play our game and do what we do. And I think we saw a little bit of that against the last couple of weeks where they showed a little bit more zone. At the same time, I don't know. I mean, like it's a hard job. And it's easy for me to sit here and be like, look at the numbers, watch, a handful of games and be like, this is what you have to do. And it's another thing to like go out there and do it, right? Um, I still think he's the right guy right now.
Yeah. And I hear you, Mixmaster, here, where he says, what I'm saying is it makes little sense to have a senior defensive analyst for AG, but no senior defensive analyst for first-time defensive coordinator that's struggling early and often. I feel like that's a fair criticism. I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, they really seem focused on their offensive side of the ball. And I also believe they thought Casey Rogers could maybe fill a bigger role because he's a former defensive coordinator as well. There were, and then wasn't there, Jim O'Neill used to be a defensive coordinator in college. And so I think they mistakenly believed they had some senior position coaches that could really help. And I don't think that played out the way that that they had hoped.
And plus, I think some of that might go back to, again, like they thought they were maintaining the same defensive system. So back in 2023, while they were still kind of building the ship, still like trying to install that defense. I know it was, year 3 under Aaron Glenn, but things hadn't turned around yet defensively.
Yeah, he had 3 different schemes in the first 3 years. So.
Right. And so I think maybe there was maybe a more of an urgency just installation wise to have a senior defensive assistant, whereas I think you were hoping Shepard to just pick up where Glenn left off. And, in terms of installation, in terms of scheme, in terms of weekly planning, there had already been enough like teaching that had happened, grooming that had happened. I mean, we heard about it all off season, how, Shep was starting to call plays on the sidelines and very much like they had prepared him enough where I think they thought that there wasn't going to be enough of a change in the scheme and enough of bumps in the road for Shepard in terms of play calling because they had been preparing for that maybe they didn't need that assistant. But in retrospect, I think maybe they did.
Keep in mind, Morton was that assistant for the offense back in 22.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
All right. So John Fox, new defensive coordinator. Got it. Downgrade. Thank you for the 18 months. Says with more of offensive line help and a healthy secondary, we'll be back next year. Certainly could be. Colorado Lion, 13 months on Twitch says, what's a turnover on the coaching staff looks like? Colorado, we kind of already talked about that a little bit. The shorthand version is there's probably going to be a new offensive coordinator, which puts into question what they're going to do with Morton, puts into question what they're going to do with
David Shaw. They'll need a new tight ends coach.
You're going to need a new tight ends coach. Defensively, Casey Rogers is kind of like a 50-50 up in the air guy. But Shep is probably almost certainly not going anywhere. Joe P, another $5 super chat, says, Eric, what do you want the Lions to do this offseason, but no, they won't? I want to hear you be more critical and hear some Schlitt hot takes.
Well, I feel like this year I've been more critical.
It's been easier to be more critical.
Than I have. Well, but I try to be constructively critical, I guess is what it is.
Of course.
I want them to draft a offensive tackle in the first 2 rounds. And I also want them to change their defensive approach to be more aggressive.
Yes. I think that's the one. Rush. That's the one that you and I both agree on, and I think you and I both agree on it's probably not going to happen either.
Yeah. I also don't know if they're going to draft an offensive tackle in the first 2 rounds. And that's something I've been asking them to do for a while.
Yeah.
I liked the Baltimore right tackle, Rose Gardner. I'm blanking on what his exact name is. But that was a guy that I was like, draft and develop him.
Yeah.
And that was a guy who I thought you can get on day 2, develop him into a starter. I still think that's a mess. Even if Decker comes back, I still think you have to draft an offensive tackle with their first 2 picks. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's something I'm very adamant that I want to happen. I do think dialing up the aggressiveness with the pass rush. I'd love to see them use the other draft pick on a defensive end, but I think the world would love to see that. And again, they don't seem to prioritize that. Like I said, I've been digging into this draft class a little bit more. And there are a couple defensive ends that certainly fit the Lions' current style. But at the same time, there's a couple defensive ends that are like, man, it'd be nice to have that type of guy. You know what I mean? I know you've always liked the more pure pass rushers.
I just think it's nice to have one.
Sure. And there are guys in this class that I think there's a few different flavors of defensive end in this class. But if you're talking about like if you want a guy in the first round, I don't know if there's like these surefire guys. There's a couple that are really intriguing, but I also don't know if they'll be there. Like the Lions are at 15. I don't know if they'll be there at 15. Maybe they will. Like a guy like David Bailey out of Texas Tech. 6'3", 250, plays like Nick Benito in Denver. Okay. Good against the run. He's a stand-up pass rusher. He's excellent pass rusher. Pretty decent against the run. But from a body type fit, it goes against
he's Derek Barnes.
what they do. Kind of.
But probably can't drop.
But he's but better. Yeah. But
better pass rusher, worse drop off ball.
You'd have to take him at 15 if he's there.
Okay. Done.
And so yes, I'm with look, I'm saying if they keep the scheme,
That's
then
gonna be tough.
He's not under consideration. But if they're willing to change the scheme and they're willing to add a guy like him, and then they want to stand him up and stand Aiden up, because you can stand Aiden up. You've done it before. He's done it in the past.
He likes it.
If you want to get and you have bodies. Tyleek and Aleem are big enough that you can have those two guys as the down guys, stand those other two guys up, and you can. That's a system you can install instantly.
Okay, I'm in. You sold
But
me.
if they don't, want to change their system, he's not a guy that they're going to target. When he's a guy that I would take at 15 if he was there and try and upgrade the pass rush. But again, there's other guys too, but that's an example of something that I would do.
Right.
That I'm not sure they would.
The problem with that is that that's not just a schematic change. That is a philosophical change.
Yes, but I almost think that needs to happen.
I agree, but I don't think it will. If you want to change your scheme and still prioritize stopping the run, I think that's possible. If you want to do that and become a more pass rush focused defensive front, I don't think this team is going to be willing to do that.
The struggles they've had defending the run in recent weeks, I'm hoping opens up this coaching staff's eyes to say, if we're investing all of this money into this style and it's still not stopping the run, maybe we need to modernize our defense a little bit more, because this defensive scheme isn't super adaptable up front. It's only adaptable in the secondary. Yeah. And when you have when you have injuries in the secondary and your safeties are gone, then you become extremely vulnerable all over the place. Yeah. Losing those safeties was wildly detrimental to this defensive team.
No question.
Just crazy. And so I don't know. Look, maybe,
and listen,
you know what I would really like? And this is wildly out of the box. I'm using the word wildly a lot because it is
I can't wait for the aggregators to take this segment and say, Lions writer suggests go get Max Crosby and have him play safety.
This is still draft related.
Great.
But you're close.
What?
One of the best players in this draft is a safety out of Ohio State named Caleb Downs. he should go in the top 10. He should probably go in the top 5. But the NFL hates safeties. And if he drops to 15 and he's a top 5 player in this class, why not consider taking him, because he's just a crazy football player. It buys you time with Brian Branch. And then when Branch comes back, you now just play 3 safety secondaries. Because Branch can play your nickel. I
don't hate it, because obviously like safety is in a weird situation right now, right?
Mm-hmm. But if you want to keep the front the same way,
but I don't,
in the same style. No, I'm with you. I don't either. But if you want to keep the front in the same style, I'm not taking Downs off the board at 15. That's still in my wheelhouse of approaches, especially if your secondary is you want to be adaptable and you prioritize safety more than the rest of the NFL, and he slides to you, and then you get him, and then they're like, how do we let this happen? How did we let the Lions get this guy? Like, I don't think he's going to be there. I think he goes like at 12 or some craziness like that. But it gets to my point where I'm not ruling anything out on defense. Nothing is off the board on defense for me this year. So give me the Nick Bonitos. Give me the Brian Branch 2.0.
Playmakers.
That's where I'm going with it. Yeah. That's the thing, is I'm willing to get playmakers on this defense in any way you can.
Yeah.
And that means going against the grain at defensive end. That means still keeping safety on the board, still keeping corner on the board. And I want a offensive tackle and a defensive playmaker with the first 2 picks.
All right.
Give me that.
All right. Done.
All right.
That's Eric's mock draft 1.0. You guys just got it.
I just picked first round players, though. I didn't pick any second round players.
No,
I just
say
want
you
get
one of them in the second round.
Yeah. Perfect. I picked 3 first rounders. I want all of them with 2 picks, and one of them in the second round.
Publish. Hey, it's not even January yet. You're allowed to, like, draft stock can swing wildly between now and April. Maybe one of them, is caught with a gas mask bong on. Boom, second round.
Hey, Laramie.
4th round pick.
Laramie still went in the first, man. He just dropped.
I thought he went in the second, didn't he?
Mm-mm. He was supposed to be a top 5 pick, and he just went like in the teens, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right. He went 13. Lasermouth, thank you for the 27 months. Subscribe to us on Twitch.
Hey, there's a Mike Sanders still in this class too, Dan. There's a couple of them that I like. Couple of guys I have my eye. Mike Sanders still ish.
Ask. Trade all picks for first round picks. Eric.
Yeah. Perfect.
I mean, listen.
Those are the ones that play.
If you can literally trade your entire draft class for 2 or 3 first round picks, I might do it this year. But I don't think the math on the charts works that way.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Could you trade both you have 2 fourths, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 fourths.
A second and 2 fourths
to bump up back to the first round.
You'd probably need to start going in the future a little bit.
No, thank you.
Just give him a third. Those don't mean anything.
They don't have a third, Eric.
No, next year.
No, stop doing that. All right, I think it's ready. I think I'm ready to get back into the show.
All right. I gotta get my game face back on.
Get your game face back on. All right. Finally, catch you. We're still talking football. Still talking Lions football.
Mm-hmm.
We just got a little too close to draft talk, so I was ready to get out. I just pulled the ripcord.
I went through the playoff teams this morning to look at which like if I was going to write like a watch list for the playoff teams, would be very difficult considering the time crunch and all the other articles that we're doing this week.
Sure.
But I was like, all right, how many players are on each like team? And so I don't know. I really like the OSU Miami game. There's a lot of guys in that game that I think
okay.
the
I thought you meant
no, oh
NFL
yeah, no,
playoffs.
nope, talking college. But if you're gonna watch one college playoff game, it's watch the OSU Miami game. That has a ton of players that the Lions I think would
Is that
be
like
interested
today
in.
or tomorrow?
It's tomorrow. Yep, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow.
Miami has like 4 or 5 guys that I'm like, oh, that fits right in with kind of what the Lions are looking for. Oh, like they have arguably
just
the
list
best.
5 guys and write one sentence on each, Eric. I know it's impossible for you to write one sentence on a player, but do it anyways.
The problem, look, this is what I targeted draftable guys and circled the ones that I thought the Lions might be interested in. Like that's how many guys, the circles. That's how many guys I'd have to write up.
There's 8 in that one game. 8. Write a sentence on each. Boom. 300 words. Done.
Yeah, maybe.
You did get me a Colorado Lions when you said, Jeremy, it frees them up to trade back into third this year with next year's second. No! Stop it.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
I will say, I did a little bit of receipt pulling this week. I'll admit it was petty.
Oh yeah,
but that receipt that I pulled about me saying, "Hey, Brad Holmes, maybe stop trading up and being so risky," after the 2024 draft, looks like a pretty good take right now.
Why didn't you pull up the actual article though?
Because I was looking for that article and then I pulled, and then I said, "Oh, someone on Reddit posted that 2 years ago. I wonder what the reactions to that were." Predictably, why are we complaining? This is the best GM we've ever had. What an idiot. This is clickbait. I said, hey, I could be wrong, but let's look a couple years down the line and see what happens, because this felt like a particularly risky draft that didn't need to be so risky.
I disagreed with that article at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I still do.
I hate you.
All right, let's start it up.
I don't hate, to be clear, I don't hate Reddit. I go on the Lions Reddit quite a bit. I even commented on it today.
Nice.
Because, I'll be honest, there was a very misleading tweet out there from somebody that said that was recapping the Dan Campbell interview, and the first bullet point was he wouldn't commit to keeping Kelvin Shepherd.
No.
Which
Weird.
is technically true because he was asked.
Sure.
Kelvin Shepherd, it's safe to
That was
say
the standard.
he's good for 2026. And Dan Campbell responded, I'm not even there yet. I'm not even discussing those sort of things yet. There's still one game left to play. So in that sense, yes, he didn't commit to keeping Kelvin Shepherd. But in the same interview, he says, I think Kelvin Shepherd has done a damn fine job. I think that tells you all you need to know about whether Kelvin Shepherd's going to be around next year or not. And so I needed to make sure that Lions fans that were just reaction to that screenshot of a tweet know so that's not very correct or accurate. Derek, we did talk a little bit about Linderbaum. And listen, the Lions can do enough salary cap maneuvering where they can make a splash signing if they want to. It's not
sure
really
they just
signing.
They can also not extend Laporta and Branch.
Right. True.
And then that'll save them some headaches as well. But
all right.
Hey, downgrade. Yeah, I'm looking at Nichols. Let's put it that way. I'd love to have a Meek back. My gut feeling though is that there's a coach out there who loves him that is willing to pay more than the Lions are for him.
Aaron Glenn.
And that coach might be in New York. Yeah.
All right, let's get to it. Here we
All
go.
right.
And we are back here on the midweek mailbag, answering your questions here from Twitter, from Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. Let's talk a little bit about Sunday. Doug Thompson asks, shouldn't Mekhi Wingo be playing in the last game to at least carry over some positivity into next year for him and the rest of the 2024 draft class?
Look, if he was good enough to play in their system, he would play. The fact that he hasn't is really discouraging, to be honest. He showed some promise as a rookie, and then this season, for whatever reason, they have decided to go in a different direction with him, which is surprising considering some of the struggles they had at like 4I. I thought he might get a look there. They felt comfortable with Pat O'Connor and Lacey over Wingo, which again tells me that they're seeing something that they don't like. And I don't know what it is. They always talk highly of Wingo, both players and coaches. But obviously, there's a disconnect between what they're saying and him not getting an opportunity. And I don't know what it is.
Right.
I would like to see him play in the finale. At the same time, based on what Dan Campbell has said, he's only going to play if he's the next man up because of an injury. And so my guess is that he doesn't.
I'm with you on pretty much everything you said there. I do wonder if the Lions were in the same situation that they were at the beginning of the year where they had to play a bunch of Pat O'Connor and Tyler Lacey, if now that would fall to Wingo. Because, that was earlier in the season, right? We saw Wingo play one game against the Bears. He played like 35 snaps, and then he disappeared. So my guess is they didn't like what they saw in that game and said, you're not ready yet. Now that we're in the back half of the season, though, I do wonder if maybe he's a little bit more prepared. Maybe he's a little bit better. Maybe he was a little bit raw coming off that season-ending injury last year where he didn't get much time. Did he get any time in training camp? I don't remember. A little bit? I know he was delayed, right?
Not enough to make an impact, obviously.
Right. And so I do wonder if Aleem hadn't come back or if the Lions had suffered an injury, Roy Lopez wasn't available. I do wonder if he would now be the next man up because we talked to Casey Rogers just like 2 weeks ago. He's like, man, I really like that guy's athleticism is really showing up in practice. I'm really excited about where he's at right now. We're very happy with his progress. And like, I do wonder if he's one of those guys where if the numbers game were to play in his favor right now, maybe we'd see a little bit more of him than we have. The problem is they're deep at that position. Some of those guys are playing pretty well, but like, I am also of the belief, like, do I need to see DJ Reader out there on Sunday? Like, no, I don't. Not at all. And not that Mekhi Wingo would go out there and play nose tackle. They're not the same player. But, I feel like there's certainly part of me that wishes the Lions would adopt a little bit more of a let's get some of our young guys out there mentality, even though I completely understand 100% why they aren't. I just because it's not convenient to us now doesn't mean that the Lions are going to abandon their philosophy of every game matters to us, no matter the stakes. I mean, imagine if they had taken that outlook in 2022, Erik.
We would have been robbed of the greatest game we've seen in the last 5 centuries.
That's right. All right, Tim Bowers. This is kind of like the Lions fandom section of questions that I think are interesting.
Okay.
Tim Bowers asked, this season I learned to stay off Reddit more and to not get as hyped about free agency, the draft, and training camp. I'm still very team Brad and Dan. Do you think this amount of skepticism was earned at all this year, or is this just the evolution of being a fan of a good team?
Well, yeah, I certainly think the expectations have changed, and therefore their perception on what the team is and what the team should be has changed as well. Um, when you have 3 years or 2.5 years, whatever you want to call it, of success where you're playing at a high level, the expectations are higher and they're raised, and so the criticism is going to be about even less significant things than maybe it was before. And so I get that. Um, I also think that there is a section of the fan base that maybe doesn't understand all the nuances that go into an off season. Like I think the salary cap is largely misunderstood by people who are more casual fans, and there's nothing wrong with being a casual fan. But if you don't understand the salary cap component of the offseason, then it's going to be more challenging to understand why they make moves and why they didn't make moves. And that can lead to frustration. And I get that as well. So, I don't want to gatekeep on what people's fandom is. Uh, you can be at different levels, but I think the more you know about why decisions are made in the off season, the easier it becomes to understand why the team makes the decisions that they do. And there's still going to be things that you're going to disagree with, no matter whether you understand everything about the off season nuances or not. But I think it's easier to understand why they're not trying to trade for Max Crosby when you understand things like the salary cap and stuff like that. So, I don't want to gatekeep here a little, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
right. But, yeah, I think the more now, and look, if you don't like the level of podcast that goes into those details, there's plenty of podcasts out there that play to the casual fan, and they may be suited better.
Name them,
suited.
Erik. No.
Oh, all right.
No,
If you want me to.
No.
Oh, but like, if you want to be the guy, if that's the type of fan you want to be, that's great. You'll find media, but
Right.
all right, I'll stop and let you talk.
No, here's the thing. Skepticism, criticism, all of that stuff is absolutely warranted this year, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
the team made mistakes. Brad Holmes miscalculated some things. Dan Campbell made some bad decisions. Coaching staffs made some bad decisions. I think where the disconnect is, we are attributing the same solutions to different problems. So there are too many fans out there, and I don't want to throw a blanket over the entire Lions fandom because they're not doing this, but like there are too many that says, "Oh, we suck this year, throw everyone away." That is a solution to an old problem when this team was 3-13. That's a solution to an old problem when this team was 5-12. That's a solution to a problem when this team didn't have 5 to 7 Pro Bowlers every year. We warned you that things were going to get harder for this franchise. We warned you that things were going to get tougher for Brad Holmes. We told you guys that the margin for error is going to get more narrow and narrow because the division was getting better. You'd have to play a tougher schedule. You'd have to work within the confines of a shrinking salary cap. And so every mistake that you make is now heightened. You miss that margin of error, suddenly drafting Terrion was a terrible decision. Drafting Ennis was a terrible decision. Like every little thing where it's just like, sometimes you miss. That happens. That happens with the general manager. It's why I think you should maximize the amount of draft picks you should have. But anyways, you're going to miss. You're going to make errors. It's going to happen. And when you're a competitive football team with a lower margin of error, you're going to feel those mistakes a little bit more. The problem is you can't just go back to throw away the quarterback, throw away the coach, throw away the general manager. That is the overreaction to it. That's the part where maybe some of the fandom hasn't grown up a little bit. That's where I'm at. Do you have a retort?
Look,
because I stuck in the little jab about trading up.
No, look. There's going to be different levels of interest and different levels of time commitments, and we're going to have our opinions, and fans are going to have their opinions, and that's just how it goes. I think the trick is with this offseason is going to be not taking the bait, right? Because I think that's where this question stemmed from Tim is don't get too wrapped up in someone's opinion who is different than yours, and like getting into arguments and stuff. Like, it's going to be a hard off season because there's going to be a lot of people exactly because they're frustrated. And so frustrated. Yeah, I get that. And that's completely justified. But if you need to take a break from certain platforms because they don't align with, or they cause you more anxiety, then that's understood. Like, I get it. I get it. Right? If
that's
you
welcoming the people in, saying, "Hey, safe haven right here, guys. We're not going to yell at you. We're not going to sugarcoat things either." But
exactly, yeah. It's the frustrating thing, I think, for me this offseason is going to be the media platforms that aren't as informed, and they throw out hot takes and stuff like that. Like, that's going to drive me nuts. That's going to drive me nuts this season.
Like you said, take a break from those. I know.
Oh yeah, 100%. You don't you don't engage, you don't quote tweet, even though you want to. Oh, that's going to be hard.
All right.
If it's the same one I'm thinking about, then yes, I'm with you. So
there's more.
There's a lot of media out there. Yeah. All right. There's a lot of media. Find it. There's a lot of fans. Find those fans that have stuff in common with you.
Aaron H., one of our Pride of Detroit direct subscribers, says there's been a lot of talk about how the Lions need to take a deep look at 2025 and find answers moving forward. Does the media and fan base need to do the same? Did we allow ourselves to give the team too much credit for past success, which caused us to paper over some obvious flaws on the team? A defensive philosophy that has not consistently worked for 4 years, 2 new coordinators, a new offensive line, questionable draft strategy. What is the balance between acknowledging that this regime has raised the standards, but that they also have made mistakes and not reached their goals?
Well, I certainly think both the media and fans are going to agree that there were mistakes made and that they didn't reach the goals. Like, I think that's going to be pretty universal. Which mistakes are acceptable and which are not, I think that's going to be two different conversations. And, I personally, like, looking back at this past year, I believe the change in coordinators was a much bigger impact than what I was expecting. Right. Sure. And so I went in thinking everything else is intact. The head coach is intact. Like, they should be able to, power through. And then they showed that they were more prone to making mistakes than what I had anticipated. And so, again, I don't know what the fan base needs to do, but I think from a media perspective, we always go back and look at what were we anticipating? Why were we anticipating that? Why were we wrong or why were we right? And then we try and make those adjustments moving forward. And so, we'll see how that evolves. Yeah. But I certainly think it's a warranted look to say we need to look at ourselves, of course. Right? But I also think there's a lot of people that look at football as entertainment and that it's easier to yell at the entertainment than to have any self-reflection. And I get that perspective as well because it is. So I'm not going to tell anyone that they need to turn the mirror around, even though I think in the media, we probably do. We probably need to say, why were we wrong about that take?
Right. Yeah, I'm going back and looking at like our preseason predictions, and I think we all predicted at least a national NFC championship appearance. A lot of 12-5s, 13-4s. There's an 11-6 thrown in there as well. Now they're not all that far off from that, but they're probably going to finish 3 wins short of our lowest prediction. And I don't think it's like we ignored the warning signs. I think it's probably fair to say that we dismissed them maybe more than we should have, because we certainly talked about the coordinator change and said, I certainly remember saying, like, listen, I like the John Morton hire in that you're keeping the steady thing steady. You're keeping the scheme the same that has worked, but I don't know what he's going to look like as a play caller. And I specifically remember saying all the time, like, I'm a little bit more concerned about the offensive line than I am the coordinator changes. And I still kind of feel that way about the way the season. That said, I still dismissed it enough to say, like, I still sat here and said, I think this defense could be the best in the league. And I'm going to have to revisit that and live with that very, very wrong prediction and think about what actually happened this offseason and where I was right, where I was wrong. But I think there's also just a baked in, you don't know what's going to happen, and you're going to look foolish no matter what you predict every season, because something is going to go the way that you didn't expect, right? I mean, how many times this offseason did we just not Lions fans, the NFL, ridicule any suggestion that the Chicago Bears would win the division?
Well, the injury gods or the turnover gods had something to say about that.
Sure. But that's how the NFL works. Like, you win.
This has been a weird
margin.
season, for sure.
The way I describe it, and maybe this is me coping, I think the Bears hit their highest possible ceiling this year, and I think the Lions hit their lowest possible floor. And
the scary thing, or the crazy thing is that there's only 3 games separating them too. Like, and that's really, like, this season came down to the fact that they weren't able to win those 3 games that they needed to. Right. Yeah. And you can point out the games that they really should have won, know, the Minnesota, Pittsburgh, like, those are games they should have taken care of business, and they didn't.
Flips with a 4th down stop or a 4th down conversion. The Eagles game flips with a 4th down conversion out of 5 opportunities.
Yep. Like,
there's
that's, and so when we start looking at, because I know, like, we're going to eventually start getting these questions as well, is what do we have confidence in the team's ability to move forward? It's going to be they were 20 mistakes over the course of the season away from being 11-5 and competing for a division title in week 18, but they did there were these 20 things that they didn't do right, and it's their fault. Like, I'm not trying to excuse it,
right.
But those things, if they're different, those are the things they need to change. And it's not like they need this blow up overhaul. Like, it's make these changes, and hopefully that gets you back to where you are or were.
All right, back to this week. Morgan, Pride of Detroit Dark subscriber, asks, this feels like the first year POD has really embraced losing / resting our last game for the draft injury and strength of schedule purposes. If you don't agree, why is morale and ending the season as a seeding spoiler less important to you this year than in the past, especially given the many similar years pre-Dan? Bad field conditions, number of people already expected to miss the start of next season, unusual gap between the 3rd and 4th place schedules. I don't know. I don't know if this is completely true or not, because I brought up 2022 mockingly, and I don't remember if that was during the break or during the show, of like, okay, if they had rested starters then, we would have missed out on an outstanding game. But like part of the thing that makes it drastically different this year is, one, you can't knock Chicago out of the playoffs. Like, going from 2-3 seed doesn't feel like that much of a win. But also, I think the culture is pretty well established now. You're still kind of building the culture there. and like fighting for pride and fighting like this year. I don't think the Lions are really in danger of losing the culture. I know a lot of people think they are and think this team has given up and think Dan Campbell's lost the locker room. I don't sense any of that. But there are bigger things on their mind. There are bigger things that they need to attend to, which is getting some young players involved, getting some young players up to speed, getting something out of that 2024, 2025 draft class so that you can still have a young core to this team. Making sure that no one gets hurt. Whereas, like, if you're going to play it safe with someone like Taylor Decker, who is by all means earned this game off, or even Penei Sewell, who's been fighting a lot this last month, for God's sakes, don't put Jared Goff out there with 2 backup tackles. So, like, that's maybe why I'm a little bit more open to, like, treating this more like a preseason game, but I'm not fully there either. Like, I completely understand why Dan Campbell wants to just go out and win this game, and to a sense, I support that, because you can't just say, we're going to go out there and beat the hell up out of every team and give it our all every week, and then at the first sign of like, well, this game's meaningless, who cares? Be like, okay, you're right. Let's change our entire philosophy about this team.
I excuse me. I think for me, I don't think I've necessarily embraced the fact, or like that losing is okay, but there's also the idea in my head that the problems that this team has currently are not going to be fixed this week. It's not something that they're just going to be able to turn it around with effort. And so I'd like to see the effort. I'd like to see them kicking it in and trying to win. I agree with that approach. But I've become more content with thinking that they're probably not going to win this game, because I don't think they're in a position where they can just turn it around just by trying harder. And that's really the only thing that they can do. They're not going to do philosophical shifts. They're not changing scheme. They are kind of who they are. And at this point, based on what we've seen over the last 3 weeks, they probably don't have enough in the tank to pull off the win. And so that's where I've become more content, or I mean, maybe that's embracing it, if that's the term that is acceptable. But my expectations on this game have changed, just because I think they need to have some reflection and some changes that need to be made that can't happen in the next 5 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever. Right.
Yep. All right. Last question here comes from Matthew S. Says, when considering our Pro Bowl selections compared to other teams with less, and then those other teams outperforming us, how much do you attribute that to lack of depth outside of key contributors, coaching malpractice, or 3, Pro Bowl being about popularity first and foremost?
Well, there's a little bit of everything, I think, right?
Right, because the Chicago
is...
Bears had like a crap ton this year because their fan base was energized, right, and voted.
Well,
a crap ton.
Yeah, the fan vote was certainly overwhelmingly Bears.
Yeah,
but I think at the end, I don't even know how many they got, officially in. But
yeah,
certainly the Pro Bowl is heavily popularity based. That should be very evidenced by the fact that Kirby Joseph was an alternate, and he hasn't played since like week 5, right, or whatever it is, right? At the same time, I don't know if it's hard to like say that it was lack of depth that hurt this team, or just like, problems with the coaching. There's a whole combination of things that led to the Lions being where they are now. And they didn't get a lot of breaks. They made poor decisions and players didn't execute. Like even starters, not just depth, but like starters, like Pro Bowlers that didn't execute when the time was needed. And so it goes the issues that the Lions have currently. It it goes well beyond just a couple of things. And the success that teams have, though that there's multiple things that go into that as well. That like, it's playing the right team at the right time. Finding success, finding rhythms, all those things, factor into success. So unfortunately, it's not as cut and dry as, being able to say it's the coach's fault or it's the player's fault. Like there's the whole big slew of things that go into it. But I think Pro Bowl is recognizing talent, but it's also popularity contest as well. I think that's very evident.
I mean, on a very basic level, I think it just points also to the importance of trenches. The Lions did have 2 Pro Bowlers in the trenches in Sewell and Hutchinson, but what did they get out of anyone else in the trenches? You got Al-Qadim Muhammad with a bunch of sacks. You got Roy Lopez with a good performance in 20% of the snaps, 30% of the snaps. And then you have an offensive line in flux. You have a defensive line in flux, trying to find identities. And the other Pro Bowlers we're talking about is what? Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, your skill position players, right? But this is a trench warfare game. And the Lions weren't good enough on the trenches, and they didn't have enough talent on the trenches, and they didn't find, to put it on the coaches too, they didn't find solutions in the trenches. They couldn't find a run game that provided consistent success. They couldn't stick with a certain type of run play that got them success. On defense, they couldn't find pass rushing plans that got pressure quickly enough outside of a handful of games. They couldn't figure out why the run defense fell apart in the final month of the season with what I think were talented players. Like we did mention, the safety injuries certainly didn't help, but I think if you look at the Pro Bowlers and you look at where this team failed, you got some guys that are nice on the boundaries. You got some guys that are nice in the backfield, and you have 1 or 2 pieces on both that offensive, defensive line, but it's not enough. And if this team is going to succeed, if this team is going to get back to where they were, they need to get better in the trenches. They need more Pro Bowl, All-Pro talent there. Simple as that. All right. We'll close things out there. What's going on this week? We'll have First Bite for Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. That should be out Friday morning. I believe Before the Roar might already be out. So if you're looking for Lions, Bears preview-ish content, I'm guessing they did a little bit of more bigger picture stuff because I don't know how many of you guys are really interested in us previewing a football game that has a little stakes to it. We'll be doing our Madden Sim back on Saturday morning to close out our Madden series. And next week's midweek mailbag is going to be just for Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. So if your Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber didn't get your question answered, you can send in it again next week. And we try to answer every single possible question we get from our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers every month. So make sure you send one in there. If you're not a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe and become one. But until next time, I'm Jeremy. That's Erik over there. Thank y'all for listening. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. We're still live. We'll answer some more questions if you guys got them. I'll stay live for a little bit. I don't know. What's your time limits? You don't have one?
I'm okay right now.
Okay.
I'm going to we're going to the movies, but not for a couple hours.
What are we seeing together?
Zootopia 2.
Okay. I don't have anything clever to say about that.
Good.
Captain James Kirk, 53 months subscribed on Twitch, says need to sit Goff this week. If he gets hurt, it's a mess. It's not going to happen, but I understand why you're saying what you're saying.
Also, I don't think they can rest both Decker and Sewell. They just don't have the bodies, right?
They can make it happen.
They could.
Activate Geo.
Not really, though.
They can. I wouldn't be surprised if they activate Geo. And then you got Skipper and Geo, and then you have Aushika as your backup. Problem solved. D-Turk, thank you for the 6 months. Says, thanks, guys. I enjoy this. Hey, you're welcome. Captain James Kirk 10-bit says, the Lions didn't have a full week's notice that they weren't going to make the playoffs. It was less than 3 hours before game at Green Bay that they learned they wouldn't make the playoffs. True. Very true. And then DC Smithers, £5 super chat on YouTube says, quick draft question for Erik. I'm glad you're not asking it to be. On center, any thoughts on Slaughter from Florida, Laluoa, butchered that, from Oregon, or Brailsford from Alabama?
Brailsford's probably the highest rated of the group, but even he is a day 3 guy for me. I'm still getting my feelers out, right? Yeah. Like, I haven't done deep dives on these positions or anything like that. I've really only looked at a handful of centers. Brailsford is one of them. I looked at like Connor Liu from Auburn, who I actually think is okay. Logan Jones from Iowa, who I think is okay. I do have the Oregon one on my list. I haven't watched him yet. But you know, I have a chance to on the if I get it, watch an Oregon game in the playoffs. But I'm not really in love with any of them. I think Lou is interesting. I think, again, Jones is interesting. Brailsford is interesting. I'm just not looking at any of them being like, that's a starter in the NFL type of guy. And that's frustrating when you need potentially a center, which is also why I'm very much leaving the door open on them shifting Ratledge inside, because you can get a guard easier than getting a center. Yeah. You look, it's easier to acquire a guard than it is a center. And if they think he has the smarts to play center, I don't know if I'm in love with that idea, because I didn't really like what I saw from him at center. But again, he was swimming.
We see of it, yeah,
like a week, right?
A week. His first week of training camp.
And he was swimming,
right?
And so, like, I'm not going to pass judgment on that, right? So, we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing with him, but getting a guard in or getting a center in the draft is going to be pretty challenging, and unless I come across with somebody. And paying Linderbaum in free agency is going to be really challenging. So, we'll see what other free agents end up popping up there. We'll see if I come across a guy that I like a little bit better. But I'm right now, early reads on center are discouraging for me. Womp womp.
You're such a wet blanket.
Man, I'm trying to prepare people, trying to be honest. Again, I hope I come across somebody. I hope that I watch the Oregon kid and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Aaron asks, is a later round tight end something we should expect this draft? The depth there seems.
Oh, let's hope. Let's hope. I love these
counting out
3 and 4 tight end sets that they have. Oh my gosh.
I'm not counting out once again with the second round pick, honestly.
They're so effective. To be able to just add, give me Brock Wright, give me another guy, add another guy in free agency, give me 4 tight ends that can play, and I'm cool with that, because that you've seen how these 3 and 4 tight end sets can expose the current trend of defenses, and yeah. I'm on board. Not Sadiq. Sadiq's going to cost you a first rounder. I get it. He's good. You pick him at 15 if you want him, Sadiq. He's so good, but yeah.
I don't want to play the injury card too hard here, because it feels like it absolves blame from people who deserve some criticism, but like, I think the loss of your top
losing
two tight ends
Sam
and the loss of your top two safeties were both huge.
Huge. Yeah. Crazy. It's like, because you've built the scheme around both those positions, which is why Branch and Laporta are so valuable. You know what I mean? Yeah, it certainly, they didn't have answers, and they didn't adjust the scheme. When they started using Skipper as a sixth offensive lineman, I thought that had promise and then they just were like, yeah, we're done. We're done with that. We don't need to run anymore.
Yeah.
So no, we don't need that sixth offense. I don't understand why they moved away from that so quick, like instantly.
Because they had Anthony Ferkser and Giovanni Ricci.
Oh gosh, the fact that Ricci plays more snaps than like David Montgomery and Khalif Raymond is like, it's a crime. Just because you have capable tight ends doesn't mean you need to just go back to three tight end sets and run it. Oh my gosh, that is mind. I don't understand. None of them should be playing more than even Zylstra shouldn't be playing. That's so frustrating. How, when they all of a sudden found three tight ends, when Zylstra came back and they just moved away from the sixth OL, I still don't get it. I still don't get it.
I do wonder if the Lions mildly regret IRing Brock Wright.
Okay, hold on one second. Yes, I did advocate for three tight end sets with actual NFL capable tight ends.
You need players.
Yes. Like, I'm not advocating for three tight end sets when you're talking about tight end 3 and practice squad players. That's not what I want. I want 3 or 4 NFL level tight ends on the roster. That's what I'm advocating for. And they don't have it right now. They barely have 1, not much less 3. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, one, I have a new appreciation of Brock Wright, who I've been kind of hard on in the past year or two, because like the step down from that has been very noticeable. 2, I do wonder if they maybe regret IRing him a little bit, because like he's jumped back into practice. Or like,
I certainly think they didn't want to do that.
Again, right? They opened his window?
Have not opened his window yet.
They
He's been with trainers. They
Okay.
could.
Right. But like it felt like after a week he was out there with trainers again. And like I see him in the locker room and I'm like, I think even some reporters talked to him. He's like, yeah, I hope I can go next week. And then it was IR. I'm like, oh, okay.
That
some of that
seemed
was
a little
second
bit
opinion-y and like, listen, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'm a doctor and the Lions made a mistake there and he would have been fine. I have no idea, but they certainly could have used him down the stretch.
Yeah. I have a gut feeling that may have been a little premature as well. That it was a roster crunch. We don't want to cut some other guy, so we're going to IR him instead, which is crazy to me because you have Michael Neese on the roster. So I just don't. Like,
dang, a lot of guys catching strays on this podcast. Hopefully,
you use Neese one game as a backup center. Like, come on.
Players' day off, and I sure hope Giovanni Ricci and Michael Neese aren't watching.
Michael Neese is on the 53-man roster, and Kingsley, the practice squad guy, is being played ahead of him. If they don't add Kingsley to the 53 and cut Michael Neese this week, I don't know what we're doing.
I have a feeling we might see a lot of roster moves on Saturday.
I do too.
Like,
I think there could be something that happened tomorrow.
Yeah, it might happen.
I think we could see moves tomorrow.
I mean, they don't have to do it
because
tomorrow, though.
No, but I think we could. We still could see them to move some of these moves tomorrow. Man,
why wouldn't you just do it Saturday?
Because you might. I don't know.
The only thing
I'm wondering if they might need
one. They're going to activate one guy from IR or return one to practice, either Manu or Brock.
Well, Manu's already practicing and he's running, and he'll run out this week. But if they don't activate Brock, or if they don't start Brock practicing, it's a wrap on those guys, right? Like, right? So like, might as well. and
Sorry.
they can only do one, either Brock or Cunningham. They can't do both. They only have one spot
Right.
left. So
There's
what?
just like
Look at all
news
your
is flying
alerts.
in during this podcast, and they're both
Okay.
with players named Diggs, and so I got very confused for a second because
The
like
Cowboys waived Trayvon Diggs.
they did.
Why?
They've been beefing for like 4 weeks now, where
but
Diggs
you
has been healthy enough to play, according to him, and Jerry Jones is like, yeah, he's not ready yet.
Oh, a
Also-
little Raiders Max Crosby situation going on.
Kind of. But anyways, like, first it was the Stephon Diggs stuff where, like, apparently he's potentially facing charges. And so, like, the next tweet I say is, my understand is Diggs' release was not a result of a specific incident. And I'm like, what? They released Stephon Diggs? And I was like, oh, no. That's Trayvon Diggs. But yeah, Trayvon Diggs
Crazy.
also, like, when that Thursday night game happened and they didn't activate Trayvon Diggs from IR, which I think some people were expected to, I tweeted out from the Pride of Detroit account, like, oh, Cowboys aren't getting one of their starters back. And, like, I had 20 Cowboys fans in my mentions being like, do you know anything about the Cowboys? That guy's garbage.
Wow.
Like, oh,
Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know.
He did. He's kind of one of
Well-
those corners that's like overly aggressive, and it's gonna. I like to compare people to him, like to Alfonso Smith. If you remember Alfonso Smith, the Lions corner, where like he would try to jump every single pass, and when he did, like he got a few interceptions on his way, and he did the Carlton, and we were all really excited. But he was also like super capable of getting double moved like hell, and that's why he never lasted.
Let's
Deep
play
cut.
a game.
Deep cut.
So, which practice squad players do you think get signed to the active
fields?
roster this week
Okay.
so that they can then become ERFA, or maybe they get a 1 week plus they get signed next year as well? So, which practice squad players are they not going to risk potentially getting out
But that's
to
like,
needing a?
I feel like that's just
Well,
a small risk.
so that-
Like anyone that you want to return next year that's on your practice squad, you just signed to a futures deal, and they very rarely go anywhere else.
But what I'm saying is, if you don't want to risk them getting to the futures deal spot, like if you're like, hey, we want you in, we want you. Which guys do they value enough that they would
Kingsley.
sign them this week? Because Kingsley's one.
Maybe Ahmed.
That was the other one I was thinking.
That's probably it.
End of list. Yes, that was it. I was wondering if you're going to come up with anybody else, but
I don't know.
like I wondered if you were going to say like Jackson Beeks or something. But
Ricci.
I also you stop it right now. I actually don't even know about Hassanin. Like, because Hassanin is so
Dude.
dedicated to this team, they could just futures deal him and probably be okay. But I absolutely think you have to make the move with Kingsley, right?
Because
I
I think you might even play. You might start him again.
Mm-hmm. That yes.
In
He
which
may
case
start
he has
this
to be on your
week.
53 because you've already used your 3 elevations, right?
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael Neese.
This is man. If he just sits on the roster for 17 weeks and then they finally cut him in week 18.
Yeah, he's only been on the roster for a while. Like let me see. He was. I'm gonna find my. I gotta find my.
I know everyone's
He's only-
excited about
he's on the
Ahmed, but like I
practice
still don't expect Ahmed to play in this game.
Yeah, it's the same
He's
thing
too
with
raw.
Meeks. Like I think Meeks is the talent's there. He could be something cool next year, but not enough people know about Meeks' development this season beyond the Lions to that they'd be willing to try and go get him. Yeah, Neese didn't get added to the roster until like week 11.
This year?
Yeah.
Huh.
Neese was on the practice squad for most of the year. He had a roster elevation in week 10, and then he got signed, I believe, the next week. And then he's been inactive all but one game. And that one game he played one series that they allowed a safety on. And that's Michael Neese's 2025 season in a nutshell. Sorry, Michael Neese. I'm not trying to be mean, but you're
Kind of sounds like it.
but
You're being meaner than normal today.
sorry. Sorry, Michael. I apologize.
Now, Giovanni.
No.
Rude. Jeez.
I do wonder if he will start. That would be something interesting.
Who?
Like if they bring him back, activate him, and then all of a sudden Decker is like, "Oh, I can't go," and then you're like, "Okay, Gio's going to start at left
I
tackle."
meant Ricci, not Giovanni Manu.
That's definitely
Definitely a no.
Okay.
You're not going to apologize to Ricci.
Anybody
the
named
Ricci
Gio.
family?
Anybody named Gio is not on my good side this week.
All right. I think it's about time to get out here. I don't think I have any alerts to catch up on. We'll be live again for the Madden Sim, I think, is next time. So until then, I guess I'll want to just wish you guys a very happy new year. Please be safe out there on New Year's. Roads are tough. Don't be stupid on New Year's Eve. Just go to bed at 10 like I'm pretty sure I'm going to be. Who cares? Who cares about a ball dropping?
Watch a football game. Watch college playoff.
College football games take 5 hours.
Right, so you got plenty of time.
No, I'm going to be so tired by the end of it.
It's like at 8, 7:30 or 8 or something like that.
If it's 8,
it's a
I'm not
late
making
game.
it through it.
7:30.
But is it
The
7:30?
The final play will happen as the ball drops, as it does on most. That's what happened. Was it last year or the year before
Michigan
that
plays
happened?
tomorrow too.
Yeah, 3.
Not going to watch that. I'll be at press conferences.
You'll be in a locker room
Yeah, that's true.
when the Michigan game kicks off.
Anyways,
Yeah, you watch the Michigan-Texas game right into the Miami-Ohio State game, and you can watch 2 football games over a 9-hour period. That's pretty much what it'll be.
gross.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you get to do the same thing the next day. College football playoffs galore.
I got to work.
It'll be on in the media room. You know
Probably.
that will be.
Probably, but I won't be that interested because college football's kind of meh.
Oof.
Meh. All right, guys. Be safe out there. Have a happy new year, and we will see you Saturday for the Madden Sim. Then the next time you'll see this face, it'll be the off season.